Hi, Ken Donaldson here, and here comes
Hi, I'm Holly Donaldson.
Holly Donaldson, my other beautiful half. Actually, we're not halves, we're wholes. So that's the other hole of the double hole, or something like that.
You're really digging yourself a bit more now.
I'm going to stop at this point. And Holly, we're back for another segment here. And what did we decide we're going to talk about today?
I think we're going to talk about which comes first, relationship problems or money problems. Is it because we have money problems that we're having relationship problems, or is it because we have relationship problems that we can't have a discussion about money?
And we actually had a very interesting conversation about this, a number of them. And one of the things that I thought, and this is more based on my experience, was it wasn't so much as which problem came first, or for that matter, which problem may be more important, as how the problems are dealt with. And most of the time, what my experience has said is that people have difficulty working through problems, usually because there's some differences, and differences oftentimes lead to conflict. And people, for the most part, avoid conflicts or sometimes overreact to conflicts. Either way, it doesn't help people work through those things. And being how relationships and money both have a lot of emotion tied to them for a lot of people, most people perhaps, the processing of those emotions is what I see as being the biggest challenge.
So it's the emotions underneath the problems, which you and I discussed are pretty common, both relationship problems and money problems. So it's no wonder that they get confused. But what I'm hearing you say is it's the underlying emotion that leads to those problems. And you and I also discussed that the word problem is the common thing there, and what has to be asked is how big of a problem is it? How much of an impact is it making? Is that right?
Right. And if something seems like a small problem and it doesn't go away, it's probably because there's something else going on underneath it, and it's not allowing it to go away. So when Holly and I talked about doing this segment, we thought that one of the ideas was to show you how you might be able to have a more effective conversation around some kind of what you've identified as a problem or a conflict. And again, the goal is not so much resolving what the problem is, but learning how to talk about the problem. Because if you can't talk about it in somewhat of a rational way, the problem's never going to go away. It'll turn into some gridlock after a while. So we thought we'd do a little role play, and we actually had a little conflict over how we were going to do this role play, just giving you a little personal insight about who was going to go first, who was going to be the speaker, and who was going to be the listener. And what did we decide?
Well, because I have the most difficulty bringing up emotions in a conversation, I'm going to start the conversation so you, the viewer, can relate maybe to how hard it is to bring up a difficult subject like how we're feeling about a sensitive topic. And Ken is going to model listening and reflecting back and working through the conversation. And so should I set up the conversation since we haven't talked about much about the underlying emotion?
So what's your problem anyways?
What's my problem? Well, I'm going to bring up an emotion, the emotion of fear, and how afraid I am. In a hypothetical example, I'm afraid that we are going to run out of money in retirement and you are not going to handle our money responsibly, and so that you're in this together too. I am not confident at all that we have done enough or that we're going to save and spend responsibly. So I have a lot of fear about that. And I'm going to bring that up.
Okay. And so just so you understand this conversation, part of what makes this most challenging is she's already identified not only that there's a problem, but she has a problem with me. So part of realizing that we have a tendency to get defensive about those things, like automatically. And so a big part of this is learning how to not react in a defensive way, but learning how to engage in what we're calling active listening or therapeutic interaction. Dialoguing is another term we like to use. So I think based on that, Holly, what I'm hearing is that you have some concerns looking forward about our financial situation, because one of the concerns you have is that you're not sure how I might be handling the money if it comes to me making the decisions. Did I get that right?
Yes, I feel like we have spent a long time saving up for retirement, and that's something that we've gotten used to doing, is earning and saving. But now that we're going to be entering a time in our life when we're going to be living off this savings, you may not see our capability to spend the same way I do, and I'm afraid you're going to overspend.
Okay. And so you have this fear of overspending, and you've also had, it sounds like a little bit of fear of maybe even bringing this up to me.
Right.
Okay. So it's something you haven't really wanted to bring up, and it's a genuine concern. So I just need to tell you right out of the gate, it makes sense to me. And I'm saying it makes sense because, and we've acknowledged this in front of all of our viewers and listeners, that I don't have the best financial history. I've made a lot of really bad, foolish investments, and a lot of it just lack of knowledge, lack of discipline, lack of having a plan or a strategy. So for you to have some concerns about me being much more the irresponsible one, or the one with the more irresponsible track record, I think those are valid concerns. I get it. I understand it. I find I'm having a hard time accepting that. It doesn't feel real good. But I also realize if I'm going to take responsibility for my part, I can get how you would end up there and have those concerns. And so I'm wondering if there's anything else you'd like to add to that. Is there more that I need to know about that?
No, I think you got it all.
Okay. And so what we've done here, and again, this is just a very simple example. What we've done here is that I was willing to listen and understand and accept and not get into my own defensiveness. And oftentimes when I work with couples, I call it passing over the magic bridge. There's a bridge between the land of Ken and the land of Holly. And when I cross over it, I leave the land of Ken. I leave all of my defenses, all my, my right and wrong, my side of the story. And I go over into the land of Holly. And my primary purpose is just to understand. I just want to understand how she's connecting those dots and the impact it's having on her. And when I can accept that understanding, then it helps me, makes it easier for me to deal with it. And now Holly is being more open to tell me more, which again, no matter what the problem is, we got to be able to communicate about it. We got to be able to resolve it. We have to be willing to confront the conflict. We have to have conflict with a conflict sometimes.
Yeah.
So
I think that was good.
Okay, great. So we're going to be adding more pieces to this as time goes on. And again, we really like the feedback. And any other questions or challenges you might have, please feel free to drop us an email. And going forward, we'll be building on this. So we look forward to our next episode. So this is Ken Donaldson
and Holly Donaldson.
And Holly's going to run around and turn off the video because she's the video person too. So see you next time.